Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. George Hewitt is here, and I have something out of the ordinary for me. I decided to do a master class about machine guns, MGs, as we normally call them. Now, what I want you to do, in order to judge whether this video is will meet your expectations or not, is think of a question about machine guns and watch this presentation to the end and see if that question is answered. I hope it'll be entertaining. I hope it will be helpful to you. So stick around. I'm going to turn off my video capture. That's what I'm going to do so you can see the entire slide. It's going to be a beautiful show. Let's go, and with no further ado, let's get into the presentation. So on to the next slide. The first and foremost thing that you need to know about MGs is practically every squad in every nationality had at least a light machine gun in its order of battle. So we see on the far right, you can consider a bar being automatic rifle, right? Browning automatic rifle as a light machine gun. It was, you pull the trigger and the shots came out. Great for suppressing fire. What else can I say? And for the Germans, the MG Such or Suche, geez, I can't pronounce German even if my life depended on it. There was always a light machine gun team as well for the Soviet. Let's go on. Now, what's interesting is the squads, right? In squad leader, we have the 467 for the German, the typical squad, the 666 for the American, and the 447 for the Soviets, where the Soviets, they concentrated on short range firepower and close assaults. What typically why typically we have a 666 in squad leaders, what I heard is they consider the firepower of the bar, but we don't consider the LMG for the Germans. Anywho, but typically we end up giving more LMGs in scenario designed to Germans. So you have a 4 and a 3 makes a 7, almost equivalent to a 747 with extended range. All right, going on. Here we got typical typical counters for comparison to the counter and reality. So at HMG, as you can see in the counter, you got the, let's see if I can get a highlighter there. Here we go. We got a depiction that looks like a tripod. Same thing here. That's why you have a little lambda there. And typically what this entails is an MG42 on a tripod. Same thing with the Browning 50 caliber, a gun which is still being used today against light armor and also some forms of aviation. It's a very formidable gun, heavy firepower. Look at that, 8, range of 16 versus 7. Well, 7 goes down to a 6. And if you have 2 of these babies, 7 plus 7 is 14, would go down to the 12 IFT chart, whereas this one would be 16. We're going to explain what all these numbers and the counter mean in a jiffy, I hope. And here it is. So first of all, you got the designation, the type. You can have a light machine gun, which probably represents a belt-fed automatic machine gun. An MMG, possibly a belt-fed automatic weapon on a bipod, and an HMG, same except that it's mounted on a tripod, more accurate and longer range. Portage points, the PP stands for portage points. Typically, HMGs in advanced squad leader have a 5 portage, 5 or 4. MMGs typically have 3, and LMGs typically have 1 or 2. I've never seen a 2 portage point LMG, but who knows? Anyway, firepower. The first number here is firepower. Now, the second number here, which is, as you can see underlined, is the range plus it indicates that the underscore designates spraying fire ability. Special designation, this is a 50 cal, as opposed to a heavy machine gun that isn't a 50 cal. And there's also an indicator if the weapon is borrowed, French, or if it's part of Lend-Lease. Rate of fire, 3. So if you roll a 3 or less on the colored die, that means you can roll again. Typically, in the prep fire phase, there's no restriction to that, but in the um, defender's movement phase, you are restricted by the number of movement factors the target expends, or movement points in the case of a vehicle. By the way, I'm drinking some tea. Let's move on. It's probably going to be the quickest masterclass you've attended. Different nationalities, different weapons. So on top, you see 2 portage points. See, I told you something rang a bell about 2 portage points on an LMG. American, 2.8, 2.8, 2 firepower, 8 range, underscore means spraying fire. MMG, 3 portage points, 4 firepower, and a range of 10, underscore again. Remember that, spraying fire, because it can save your life. HMG, 8.16. And the rate increases steadily from 1 to 2 to 3, and typically across all nationalities. Let me tell you something, an HMG with a rate of fire of 3, do not charge it in the open ground. It'll be very deadly. Here, Germans, 3.8, 5.12, and 7.16. British, 2 portage points for an LMG, 2.8. 4 portage points for an MMG. That means if a British squad breaks, they have to leave it behind. 4.12. HMG, 5 portage points, 6.12. And the Soviets, what's particular about the Soviets is they have a lower breakdown number for LMGs and MMGs. This is a regular Soviet heavy machine gun, but typically they also have 50 cal as a result of Lend-Lease. Even Lend-Lease is depicted in Advanced Squad Leader, but I'm not too sure if it was depicted in GI Anvil of Victory or... Oh, to be quite honest with you, the classic game was very short-lived. After GI Anvil of Victory, people just... The majority of people converted to Advanced Squad Leaders. That's the way it is. Now, usage. Who can use an LMG and how? So it's described in Alpha 9.11 and 9.12. However, a quick overview here. It's a 5-point star, so here it is. 1 support weapon and inherent firepower, or 2 support weapons and forfeit the inherent firepower. We're talking about a squad. So a squad can fire either its inherent firepower and the LMG, okay, or it can choose to forfeit its inherent firepower and 2 LMGs. Now, I am contemplating here that why would a squad want to use 2 LMGs as opposed to its inherent firepower? And that would probably be because if it gets rate, and the subsequent rate shot, it will have 6 firepower, whereas if it used its inherent firepower and 1 LMG, it would only have 2 firepower on the rate shot. Alternatively, a half squad can use 1 support weapon without its inherent firepower. When it comes to single man counters, 1 support weapon at half firepower. Or you can have 2 leaders, 2 single man counters, 1 support weapon at full firepower. And what is very special, and you need to know this to be a more effective player, this would be my masterclass bonus, is that a hero can fire 1 support weapon at full firepower at a +1 detriment, cancelled by his heroic DRM. And that you'll find under 15.23, Alpha 15.23. All these rules are under the first chapter. All right, let's move on. Rate of fire. Okay. Here's what we got here. What we got is a Russian squad with either um, a heavy or a medium. Let's say it's let's take a look and see what it is. All right, because I have the example here, I believe. Maybe I don't. Yes, I don't. I took it out. Oh, maybe not. There it is. It's a heavy HMG. Rate of fire is 3. The German units are attempting to move to 3R3 using non-assault move. Russians fire at 8 flat, +1 shell holes. All right. -1 first fire non-assault movement. Now, you could tell me, George, why isn't this unit trying to dash? Well, I guess it can dash, because if it doesn't use the shell holes. Alternatively, it can use non-assault movement and use the shell holes so it can go 2 forward to there. So Russians fire an 8 flat, +1 for the shell holes, -1 for first fire non-assault movement, and roll a 4. 3 on the colored die, and got rate. Russian player may lay 4 firepower residuals or give up rate or place 2 residuals and maintain rate. That's what's important about rate of fire here. It's either residual firepower or rate. If it does get rate, and the German unit expended 2 movement factors to move in there, he can have a second shot. Okay, if for any reason he did not use the shell holes, even if the Russians got rate, they would not be able to take out a second shot because he would have expended 1 movement factor there. So that's a nuance in advanced Walier. Now, had they rolled a 4 and a 2, 4 on the colored die, with a 4 on the colored die, the Russian HMG doesn't maintain rate, and subsequently 4 residuals can be placed in 3Q3. Why? We got a 10 shot that would be fired on the 8 table, half of 8, without any outside hindrance, would be 4 residuals. All right, next shot. Mandatory field of fire, or field of fire. When firing an MMG and above from woods, rubble, or a building hex in the covered arc of the MG, MG remains fixed for that phase. However, it is removed after that phase is over unless the unit becomes pinned, in which case the covered arc remains fixed until the end of the defensive fire phase. Let's see if I can show you that example on the map. Let's use this fellow here. No, that wouldn't do. Let's put the pizza off here. Okay, and let's put quad here, another unit here. Now, let's put it this way. Okay, now under when we get the counter tray out, we have to get the counter tray out. Let's click on it again. Sometimes slow. Oh, here it comes. All right. So you might have this on cardboard. In Vassal, it's under unit. Gun, actually. You have this counter here. And that's the covered arc. The Russian unit is firing outside of from a wooden building, and these guys will assault move to here. Now, obviously wants to fire here, but let's say he's expecting also a unit to advance from here. Okay, this is a better example. So if they fix the covered arc like this, they'll be able to fire only in this direction. And then this fellow can advance out out of the way. Um, if these guys subsequently get pinned, they won't be able to remove this covered arc counter during the defensive fire phase. But if they are not pinned and they remain unscathed throughout the movement phase, then this goes away in the defensive fire phase and they can fire in both units. That's what we're trying to portray in this slide here. Sustained fire. So a Russian 458 with a leader first fired on the unit in 3BB6 and are marked with a first fire. So they gave it all they got. A second unit moves closer to the Russian unit and decides to final fire on the German units in 3Z4. In this case, the firing LMG will be under sustained fire with a lower breakdown number of 9, 11 lowered by 2. In all forms of final protective fire, the LMG must also fire. Interesting stuff. I just took another sip of my Tim Hortons orange Poco tea. Pico. I don't know. Anywho, on to slide number 10. Now here's the special rule, or let's say peculiar rule of 9.4, Alpha 9.4, mandatory fire direction. You would think a squad with a German MMG could fire from 3K7, this baby here, all the way to 3DD2 at half firepower, alone. Well, I don't think so. Without a leader, MGs can't be fired beyond 16 hexes unless accompanied by a leader. If accompanied by a leader, then the target gets to be fired upon at area fire, as if it is concealed unless the target is broke, berserk, or overstacked. Now, these three exceptions, let me get a little options, highlighter. Yeah, these three exceptions are important to note. What? I think this is one word, but anywho. So important reading here, 9.4, take note of it. And I think this example would be very memorable. All right, let's go back to highlighter, laser pointer. See that? That's awesome. Wow. 9.22 to 9.233, fire lanes. Another important thing to, another important component or topic in advanced squad leader to understand, because it will really up your game if you understand how it's used. And I've used for fire lanes. I like fire lanes because during the opponent's movement phase, um, you end up being able to protect a large area. You don't depend on rate and firing at individual targets. You position your people in areas of the village where you're denying access to readily traversable terrain to your opponent. However, a skilled attacker um, will use bypass movement, and in some cases, much to their detriment. Because, for example, if you're bypassing here, let's get the pen. Let's say you're bypassing this hex there. Um, I'm not too sure if you should be paying for the wall here. However, from here to there, you probably end up having an open line of sight. It doesn't cross the wall, and you get nicked there. It happens. But as you can see, with fire lanes, you can protect huge swaths of open terrain with on the same level with very little effort. Now, this is a fire lane with an example of the alternative hex. You either pick left or right, and you lay down your residuals, and here's along a hex row or a hex fire lane. Fire lanes on alternate hex sides are on top. Typical fire lanes are on the bottom, right here. Allow for fire on initial target normally, and let unit lay down residual firepower along a hex range or alternate hex range, not available to units marked with first fire or final protective fire. The fire lane is cancelled either voluntarily, pinned. If the unit gets pinned, the weapon gets mouthed, and if you roll on a residual firepower attack 12, that also breaks your MG, or if the unit breaks. So this is what we're talking about here, canceling. The other thing that's important to note is that let's say you have a savvy opponent and he lays smoke here. Boink, right there. That smoke will not impede the amount of residual firepower that you can lay down. However, it will negate first fire moving in the open. Just the things that you need to remember or study hard and make sure you're prepared for your next game. Now, the other thing that is really underused is uh, seeing LMGs or and MGs, any machine gun for that matter, against vehicles. Why is underused? I have no idea. Whether it's an MG, MMG, or HMG doesn't make a difference. If you're firing on a star type vehicle, and star means 2 stars means, or 1 star means, 1 star means that particular facing is unarmored. If there's 2 stars, it means the entire vehicle, front and side and rear, is unarmored. So basically, what happens in that case is there's no 2-hit roll required. You look at the infantry fire table, okay? Right here, this is the infantry fire table, A7, which also refers to the rule which explains how the infantry fire table is used. And in this case, we have four inherit and 2 LMG. That makes a total of 6. So you look at your firepower, you cross index, you get the 6. And then you look at the star row. And this basically, you need a 6 to affect the vehicle and a 5 or less to destroy it. So here's how you're basically rolling on the infantry fire table, and the same dice roll will affect the passengers. So if the result is less than or equal to less than the final 2 kill number, the AFE is wrecked. And you can check for crew survival. In the case of an unarmored vehicle with no inherent crew, the crew survival number pertains to the passengers. If the result is less than or equal to the final 2 kill number, the AFE is a burning wreck, and there is no crew survival. So if I roll a 3 in this attack, boink, that's a burning wreck. Had I rolled, let's say, a 4, then I would check the crew survival on the back of this counter and check to see if these guys survived the attack. That's one. And number 2, it would be if it was a morale check for the squad, they would have to take the morale check as well. Keep in mind, passengers in vehicles, passengers do not have to jump out of the vehicle as passengers. And the vehicle, if it survives the attack, can continue on its merry way and carry the passengers wherever it wants. That is not the same as riders. Riders, if they get inflicted with a pin check or a morale check, then they have to bail out, and there's a bailout morale check. Again, I'm getting mixed up with a test check and a morale check, but you know what I mean. Anyway, if the result is equal to the final 2 kill number, I believe it's a stun. I typically, what I do is if it's a turret hit, it's a stun. If it's a hull hit, it's a immobilization. But hey, I would have to look at the infantry, the destruction table to Confirm that. Two more slides, guys. Hang in there. You've made it this far. You can make it to the end. Now, interesting thing is, and I've been afflicted by this tactic in early war scenarios. I believe it was One-Eyed Jack uh, from Croix de Guerre. I played it at the one and only tournament that I went to. One-Eyed Jack, yeah. So you're dealing with early war panzers and um, let's say medium to heavy French light machine, light, heavy, medium machine guns, and you do the audacious mistake of taking that Panzer and bring it up close and personal to an LMG, for example. This is my example. There's Brikov, an 8-1 leader, Russian leader with a 2.6 light machine gun and a 447 squad. Now, the 447 squad, its firepower cannot affect that tank unless it's crew exposed. If it's crew exposed, you can fire on the crew at 6 up 1, +2 for the crew protection that the AFE affords the crew, -1 for the leadership therein. But alternatively, what you could do is roll on the two-hit table. Now, at that range, we all know the two-hit number, the basic two-hit number is a 10. So let's put that down. Let's jot that down here. 10, 10. And vehicle target type V, T, T. Right? Right. If it moved, let's say +2 for motion, it's been there for as long as we can remember. So let's put a Greek M there for motion because I'm of Greek descent. There you go. 2M. Then it's not hull down. We can use our leadership modifier. So what happened to my little thingy? The pointer disappeared. Oh, it's just my computer overheating. So -1 for leader. It's going to come back soon. Yeah, there it is. -1 for the leader. Now, if it stopped, well, every time I draw it, it disappears. -1 for the leader. We'll put a little lambda. And if it stopped, I also get a -1 for range. And that would, these guys would cancel out. We're doing nice math here. Right? So it'd be a 10 to hit. Then you look at the 2-kill number. The 2-kill number is a 4. However, this is something we used to call penetration, but in ASO, it's a range modifier. We at a 2-hex range, we can add 1 to the 2-kill number. That would make it a 5. And, oh, we forgot, it's +1 because it's a small target. So it would be a 9 to hit. Right? So ordinarily, we would need a 5 to kill. +1 for the armor makes it a 4. However, if that AFV came into this hex at point blank range, we would need a 6. 4 + 2, 6 to kill. And -1 for the +1 for the armor makes it a 5. I hope you got a big global picture of what and how what it entails to use an MG and how to best use them. But we're not done yet. We have one more slide. I'm guessing you guys know this is PowerPoint, right? Okay, one more slide. I'm also hoping I answered all your questions. Now look at this. There is self-destruction. What if you want to destroy that LMG and run away? So there's self-destruction and mantling, dismantling. Couple things that you need to note here is that the German LMGs, even though they're in the dismantled state, still have firepower. You can use them as a light. Boink, right here and right there. That is because the Germans were, I guess, versatile in using machine guns. Whereas the Russians, these things were monsters, often mounted on a heavy base. You had to roll it on steel wheels to get it to the battlefield. And although the American MGs were easy to dismantle and mantle, it's almost impossible to use them without their proper equipment, bipods, and belt feeds. And the advantage you get from dismantling is that you can port them more easily. So as in the dismantle state, in some scenarios require you to bring these weapons on board in a dismantle state. You have 2 portage points, 3 portage points instead of 5 and 3 and 4, which allows you to carry them further. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Russian MMGs. Now, self-destruction, mantling. These are actions that you can only do in the prep fire and defensive fire phase, and they count as use of a support weapon. What else can I say about dismantling and mantling? You might want to self-destroy the machine gun because you want to destroy it and run away. Typically, what I'd like to do in that case is final protective fire, and use it until its last bullet before it's surrendered to the enemy. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I can conclude the video. And again, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for liking and subscribing and telling your friends about this channel. We have reached the 1,000 mark, and I hope to surpass it with your help. And if you did like this video, do like and subscribe. And if you didn't like this video, do like and subscribe. Don't be a hater. Be positive. Life is short. Be kind. Maybe I should have said that with my video capture on. Here I am, still in good shape, despite having a long day. But you know, laundry, washing dishes, and I can, and some construction work downstairs in the basement. We're trying to repair things. But hey, we're still going strong, and I hope you guys keep going strong. Roll low and have fun playing the greatest game in the world, Advanced Squad League. Take care, guys.